Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Valerie Wanza, and I have the privilege of serving as the district's Deputy Superintendent, Chief of Staff. We thank you for joining us for tonight's town hall regarding redefining our schools. Before we begin, we do have translation services available, so we would ask the translators if they would come to the floor mics and please explain to our attendees the services that you will provide if needed.
Good evening. Pa gen ken nan Creole, moun ki pale Creole la. Donc, quel que soit moun ki pale Creole la, nou gen on casse pour yo, so you can venir pour traduire pour yo. So, my name is Dwari Frank. I'm the Creole interpreter for tonight.
Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. Mi nombre es Adrián. Estoy aquí para interpretar en el lenguaje en español. Si necesita un intérprete, tendría que venir acá para que coja los equipos que sea necesario para entonces empezar a traducir, ¿ok? Gracias.
Thank you, gentlemen. We would like to express our gratitude to the Western High School family for hosting tonight's town hall, but to give us a warm Wildcat welcome, we bring to the stage now the proud principal of Western High School, Mr. Jimmy Arroyo.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out to Western High School. As Dr. Wanza said, I am Mr. Arroyo, the proud principal of this fine school. Western is an amazing school that offers a wide array of rigorous academic courses, also offering a multitude of activities, clubs, and award-winning sports activities for our students as well. And in fact, this year we were once again identified as one of the top performing schools in the country by U.S. News and World Report. So we're really proud of this incredible community that supports us and the incredible performance of our students and our faculty and staff. Before we begin, I want to start by thanking my custodial staff for preparing tonight to welcome you. And I specifically wanted to highlight, as I mentioned, that we have all these incredible programs. Please note that these arrangements here in the front were created by my horticulture classes by our students. So I wanted to make sure that you realize that. As you were coming in, I hope that you noticed how beautiful the facilities are. That is all work, all those pots and plants and rock gardens and chains that are out there, all that's prepared by Western High School students. So I wanted to thank them and point that out. And now I want to turn things over to our award-winning Army, JROTC, for the presentation of our nation's colors and the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would rise when they begin. And also I wanted to point out, as Colonel said, that this is our all-female cadet squad tonight. Thank you.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take your seats.
Thank you to our JROTC cadets. And not only were they the all-female corps, they're all freshmen, and it's their first time. You did an amazing job. Again, we thank Western High School for opening their doors and welcoming us here tonight. Before we begin, I would like to give you a little bit of a roadmap or pathway of what you can expect. In a few short moments, the District 6 School Board member, Ms. Brenda Fam, will provide greetings and welcome you in a more personal way. Followed by that, our Superintendent, Dr. Howard Hepburn, and our South Regional Superintendent, Mr. Alan Strauss, will walk you through a complete presentation of the superintendent's considerations, as well as some other pertinent data that you need for tonight. I would like to tell you that this evening's entire presentation is online. It is at browardschools.com/redefining. Again, the presentation that will be presented tonight is online. If you would like to access it as Dr. Hepburn and Mr. Strauss go through it, it is at browardschools.com/redefining. And once they complete the presentation, we will then provide an opportunity for you to give us feedback, both in an electronic format, and then you will have an opportunity to give feedback in person here at one of the floor mics. So with that, we will now turn the mic over to Mrs. Pham.
Thank you, Dr. Wanza. Good evening, and I want to give you a warm welcome for joining us for the District 6 Town Hall this evening. My name is Brenda Fam. I am your elected school district official. Thank you so much for trusting and believing in me and allowing me to represent you. I consider it quite an honor and probably the most biggest accomplishment that I've had in my lifetime this far. Normally at this time, what I would do is introduce my fellow school board members, but we don't have any here tonight. It's not a reflection on this district. There are just a lot of things going on at this time of year, so unfortunately they're not available to be here. What I would like to tell you, since I have a few extra moments, if you don't have the opportunity to come to the school board meetings or to watch them, I am an avid protester or protector of the rights of parents. I strongly believe in parental rights. I am an attorney, and I will defend your children for everything. Unfortunately, what I've encountered in the most recent past is I've been attending the book review committees. Now, I'm sure you've all heard the word book bans. That's misinformation. You can have whatever book you want at home, but you cannot have obscenity or pornography in the schools. And a lot of people say, what does that mean? It means if you can't say F you to the principal, then to your parents, you can't come to school and say it. It's off limits. The school is public property, and we have a certain level of decorum. And that would include with any type of other phrases that are deemed obscene or pornographic. So I've attended these book review committees, and I've actually been requested, if not demanded, to leave. And so as a school representative and official, I have every right to be there, as well as you. They're public meetings. However, when the book review committee decides which books they want to keep, I try to give that review to you on the school board. And what happens to me is that public information is denied and not being passed on to you because my microphone is being turned off, and I've actually been physically cut out of the school board videos at some points. So you ask, why is that happening? If they're saying this book is okay, it's not obscene and pornographic over here, that when I come in and try to talk about it, it's considered inappropriate. Well, apparently, the board at some point was considering FCC charges being filed, or they could potentially be filed against me, and I just want to read to you what an FCC charges. That's where you're not allowed to say certain words on television and radio, and what's considered indecent and profane programming. And it's speech that depicts or describes sexual or excretory organs or activities in an offensive measure or patently offensive way. So in other words, according to the FCC, you can't say obscenity and profanity in a board meeting publicly to parents or on live stream, but it's okay in our libraries. And I think that's absolutely wrong and extraordinary. And I'm going to keep trying to read. I'm going to keep reading, whether I get arrested, whether the district gets fined, until they reconcile this difference. Because something cannot be non-pornographic when it's across the street, and then when you carry that same book into our office building, all of a sudden it is. So that just doesn't jive. Those two theories collide. So I just want you to know I am going to consider going forward with your support, and also continue to get any books that you would deem inappropriate out of these schools. If it's not allowed, if you're not allowed to hear it, if those words can't be muttered to you, they should not be muttered to a 6 through 17, 18-year-old. So I thank you for that. And I hope someone starts the GoFundMe page, because I think I'll probably be arrested. But you know what? It's all going to be worth it in the long run. It's all going to be worth it, because our children are worth saving. Decency is not something that should be lost. You have your morality. You want your children, we all want our children to be successful. We all want them to have respect for their parents and their elders. And we want and need them to have respect for themselves. So we'll continue along that line. In addition, I just wanted to tell you I am so proud of District 6 in going through the grades that we've gotten for each of the schools. I just want you to know that the majority of our schools are A and B schools. We have 4 schools that are C, and we're working on them. We have 1 elementary, 2 middle, and 1 high school. Now, in this area, Cypress Bay, you guys are like gold. And everybody wants to be here. They want this school. So whatever you're doing with your children, keep up the great work. They're doing great in schools, and they're succeeding. And we want to continue that pattern. One of the things I wanted to bring forward, too, is the list of what the district was looking for when they're closing schools, okay? And one is, it's called the school grade average. That's what I just told you about. You're either an A or B in here if you're not one of these 4 schools that I just told you about. In addition, we have the enrollment concerns. Right now, we are at capacity or over capacity. So we are not under enrolled. We are over enrolled, if anything. So in the future, we might need, at some point, when the district is allowed to, we might need to add another high school over in this area. Right now, we can't do that because we have to get our under-enrolled schools filled up before we can start adding new schools. But at this point, that might be a consideration down the road. In addition, we have to look around the adjacent permanent capacity, which that means other schools that could take students. Our schools are full. We really don't have many schools that could pick up any students, so we can't shift them. That's another term for shifting people away. And the last thing is, on the list that I want to bring up, is the age of the facility. And I go to these schools and town halls, and your schools are immaculate. They're beautiful compared to some of these other schools. They're modern. They have a lot of technology. I'm so proud of the new programs that you're offering in Cypress Bay and other high schools, and we need to continue along that path. And lastly, we are at a pivotal moment for Broward County Public Schools confronting the challenges of underutilization. And this isn't something that just happened overnight. It's been going on between the last 5 and 10 years. So we are, and when it says underutilization, that means we are under-enrolled. Okay, for school space and under-enrollment. The initiative tonight is more than just a conversation. This is really a plan of action and what they're going to put in place. We're discussing options at this point. Nothing is concrete or in stone. So we are committed to working with our stakeholders, which means all of you, and through this process. So if you have any comments tonight, we're going to have the opportunity with the microphones. Please come up and speak. Also, my assistant right here, Andrea, is in the first row. She has my card. If you want to reach out to me by email or by phone, my work cell phone is on there, and I'm always accessible. So it's a really important that you give us your commitment to join in with us and work with us on this project. Together we can foster and transform this change. We have to reshape our schools and we have to bring them into the 21st century. Now please join me, and I want you to welcome our new superintendent, who I have a lot of admiration for and believe that he can carry us through. And this is Dr. Howard Hepburn.
Thank you and good evening. Thanks for attending tonight's Redefining Town Hall. Tonight we will review my considerations for redefining BCPS, which will involve changing grade level configurations, lease or sale of properties, change of school boundaries, public-private partnerships, merge or combine schools, converting schools to full choice programs, repurposing schools, and also closing of schools. The considerations that will be presented to you involved reviewing feedback from our initial community conversations and reviewing a myriad of trend data that informed our key criteria to ultimately develop these considerations. These considerations focus on regaining students from competing non-district operated schools in areas with a large and increasing amount of students. These considerations also include a mixture of closings and repurposing of schools for areas with declining student enrollment. These considerations we are presenting will address our ability to maximize district funding by creating recurring revenue by recapturing student enrollment, maximize our utilization of space, sale and or lease of land to increase our fund balance and address other district priorities, public-private partnerships to increase collaboration for common community and school district interests. Tonight, we welcome your feedback and understand that feedback is truly a gift when addressing complex challenges. We have received great input and feedback from previous town halls to include questions and concerns about closures, choice programs, facilities, faculty and staff, and much more. I also continue to receive feedback from all board members, including Ms. Fam, who represents this district. The abundance of feedback continues to inform our revisions for final recommendations to be presented to the school board on May 14th. At this time, please welcome Mr. Alan Strauss, our South Region Superintendent, who will start the presentation of these considerations.
Thank you, Dr. Hepburn. So this evening, to go through the overview of the superintendent's considerations, our agenda will be, we'll review innovation zones, we'll talk about the initial criteria and data analysis, and Mrs. Pham kind of pointed out some of those, so she's trying to steal my thunder a little bit there, but that's okay. And then we have the superintendent's considerations that I'll walk through, and then we'll also walk you through a plan of total district realignment. Finally, we'll explain the timeline, and then, as Dr. Wanza mentioned, time for community feedback. So on April 16th at the school board meeting, Dr. Hepburn presented this slide right here. It shows a cluster of 5 different zones, color-coded there. And also, he just mentioned the potential considerations. So these are the 5 clusters of zones that we will be speaking about this evening that are under his considerations for changes. But before we get there, I will cover what the initial criteria, data points are that we were looking at in creating some of the considerations. The first one up there is the 23-24 benchmark enrollment, also known as the 20-day count. It basically looks at every school and how many students are enrolled in that school on the 20th day of school of this current school year. The next is the utilization of permanent seat capacity. That is in terms of a percentage. So for instance, if we have a school with 1,000 seats and there's 700 students, 700 divided by 1,000 is 70%. So that school would have a 70% utilization of permanent seat capacity. Next data point is school grade. We looked at a 5-year average of each school. Then we looked at also enrollment concerns. So we took that percentage utilization and looked specifically, does a school lower than 55%? After that, one of the considerations that we have to have for a data point is there sufficient adjacent permanent capacity? And let me explain that a little bit further. So if I have a school that maybe is under-enrolled and under consideration to close, the question is, are the surrounding schools around it able to absorb the students if we were to close that school? So if I had a school, say, of 400 students, and we were to close that elementary school, are the surrounding elementaries nearby able to absorb those 400 students? And it's either they can or they can't. So that's a determination as well. The next data point is historical significance. Throughout our district, we have many schools that are identified as historically significant. The example that I've been consistently using is, right now it's Attucks Middle School, but originally it was Attucks High School. And back in the late 60s, it closed down for a year and then was reopened as Attucks Junior High, subsequently turning into Attucks Middle School. And there's a lot of historical significance in that portion of the city of Hollywood around Attucks Middle School. The last 2 points to consider are school grade concerns. So taking that school average is one thing, but then we also have some schools that are at school grades of F, D, and potentially maybe very low Cs, and some schools bounce between Cs and Ds, Ds and Fs, Fs, Ds, C, they bounce back and forth. So we looked at that. The last data point of consideration is the age of the facility. We have campuses that have buildings that are on their facility that are literally built prior to 1960, which is over 65 years old. And therefore, maintenance of those buildings or to replace those buildings is a significant cost to the district. So with all that being said, we're now going to walk you through the superintendent's considerations. The first set of zones are the Everglades, Flanagan, and West Broward zones, located in the southwest portion of the district. In the southwest portion of the district, we do have a lot of competition with charter schools, and when we move to look at the impacted schools for under consideration, a lot of this is around attracting students to our school and competing with our charter schools. I'm going to start off to the far right at Pines Middle. Pines Middle School is a traditional, bounded 6 through 8 middle school. It has a little over 600 students. However, it has a capacity close to 1,700 students. So it is very under-enrolled. So one of the considerations for Pines Middle is to replicate another program that's very successful within this district, and that's Millennium Middle School, which converted to Millennium Collegiate Academy 612 up north in Tamarack. That school also just recently was named by U.S. News and World Report the #2 high school in the state of Florida. So in looking at that, we're looking at replicating the success of that. Yes, we can clap that. It's fantastic. We can replicate what the success that happens on the north end, potentially at the south end, and attract students that are leaving our school district for charter schools and bring them back to us with attracting them for that Collegiate Academy program. Next, I'm going to point out on the bottom middle there, Silver Shores Elementary. Silver Shores Elementary has about 350 students, and it has a capacity of 800 students. So once again, very under-enrolled. It is a traditional boundary K-5 elementary school located in Miramar. The consideration there is to take away the boundary, open it up for the entire southwest portion of the district, which would include even all the way out here in Davie and Weston, for individuals to consider sending their child. In addition, we would change it from a K-5 to a K-8, and it would be a full choice school. And just to explain, a full choice school is where parents apply for their children to get in, and they enter into that school, and typically in K through 8s, a lot of times it starts in kindergarten, but here it would give opportunities for parents to have their students come to this school in all grade levels and provide more specialized programming. So for instance, we have a K-8 that does a Montessori. This could be also a K-8 that maybe does STEM or math and science, whatever we feel is going to be best suited for the student population that's going to attend the school to produce the best results for those students. In order to do that, the students that are currently at bounded for Silver Shores would have to be rebounded, and therefore they would move over to the 3 elementaries that are around there: Silver Lakes Elementary, Silver Palms Elementary, and Panther Run Elementary. Dr. Hepburn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Strauss. Yep. Is the mic on? Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Strauss. So this is an opportunity where in this area, we don't have a shortage of students. This is an area to have an abundance of students. The students just are not choosing us as their choice. So it provides an opportunity for us to actually be a little bit more competitive, offer more innovating programs, really working with the community, parents, identifying their needs and what they want that's going to attract them back to our schools, replicating some models that are already successful in our district so we can recapture the students. And when we bring more students back into our schools, it equates to a reoccurring revenue every year versus trying to close a school in this specific area when we do have an abundance of students that we can recapture.
So the next cluster of zones that we're going to talk about are Hallandale, Hollywood Hills, and South Broward. These are located in the southeast portion of the district. The impacted schools under consideration on the next slide, and I'm going to start at the bottom right here at Hollywood Central Elementary. At Hollywood Central Elementary, they have about a little over 300 students for a school that's got a little over 600 capacity. 5 years ago, the residents that are bounded for Hollywood Central asked the district to convert it into a K-8, and at the time, the district chose not to do so. So in looking at the situation, and just to further explain the situation there are 330 students that live within the Hollywood Central boundary that are in grades 6, 7, and 8. Out of those 330, only 75 of them choose to go to the bounded middle school. So we have over 250 plus students that choose to go, most likely in this case, to charter schools. And the charter schools around our K-8 charter schools, there's 3 charter schools within a near, probably like less than a mile radius of where the school is located. So the consideration is to convert Hollywood Central Elementary to a K-8 and provide those city residents exactly what they asked for 5 years ago, the K-8 with the idea of bringing back those 250 plus students that are sitting out there not attending our schools. The next consideration, I'm going to move up a couple above it to Olson Middle School. Olson Middle School sits with about 600 6 through 8 students, and the campus has just a little under 1,200 capacity. At Olson Middle School, the consideration is to close the school. In doing so, the students that are there would be absorbed at Addix Middle School. I mentioned before, some would be absorbed at Hollywood Central, turning that into a K-8, and the remainder would absorb into McNichol Middle School. The campus itself of Olson Middle School can be utilized and repurposed for district administration staff, which will allow us to move staff out of buildings and better utilize the buildings in which they're currently sitting. An example that I would give is at Arthur Ashe campus in Fort Lauderdale, we have staff that's there. If we can move those out, our Atlantic Technical, which runs Arthur Ashe, can have enhanced, increased programs for students, adults, and high school students. So therefore, those are what's happening at the middle school for Olson, heading out to Addix, Hollywood Central, and McNichol. The next school is right below Olson is Oak Ridge Elementary. Oak Ridge Elementary is not necessarily under-enrolled by any stretch of the imagination. They sit with about 76% seat utilization, a little over 450 students. However, with Oak Ridge Elementary is their school grade has concerns. They've been a D the last 2 years. They've been C's, they've been D's, they've been C's, they've been D's, up and down, up and down. And you'll hear Dr. Hepburn talk about the yo-yo effect with some of our schools. So in addition to the school grade concern, sorry, just checking, sorry. The other concern besides school grades is the facility. A good portion of the facility at Oak Ridge is built before 1960. There are buildings there that were built more recently, but the good portion of the campus is still the existing original building. So there's definitely facility concerns there. In order to close Oak Ridge Elementary, we would then absorb the students at Bethune Elementary, Hollywood Hills Elementary, and Colbert Elementary. Sterling Elementary and Collins Elementary are right on the fringe, and there would be some adjustments to the border boundaries there to make those better align with the school. And to give you an example, for instance, in Collins Elementary, there's a western portion of that boundary where students live probably less than a mile away from Sterling Elementary, yet are bounded to Collins Elementary. So we wanted to look at, while we're there, looking at making some adjustments to boundaries that better suit and therefore provide the best seat utilization of our schools. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Strauss. This option here is more of a mixed option. Number one, providing some solutions that the community have already asked for in the past with Hollywood Central, transitioning that into a K through 8. Also, Mr. Strauss mentioned maximizing our utilization of space. So one of the considerations is closing Olson. We have too many open middle school seats in that area, approximately about 3,600 middle school seats and probably about 1,500 students taking up those seats. So we have too many middle schools. So we have to close a middle school and maximize the utilization of space in that area. Also, with Oak Ridge, Mr. Strauss mentioned the facilities that are subpar, but also it's an opportunity for the district to leverage that property for some other uses and working with possible surrounding communities or possible for-profit or nonprofits and seeing how we can leverage that building or that land for other purposes to meet some district priorities. And also, Mr. Strauss talked about the yo-yo effect. One of the things that we'll also do in the secondary phase of this during the summer is evaluating our programs at all of our schools, especially our schools that have up and down student performance, which I call a yo-yo effect. Student performance will go up one year, and then it takes a dip the next year, and it goes up for a couple of years, and then it takes another dip. And looking at the programs that we're offering, making sure they're meeting our kids' needs, providing the best learning opportunities possible so we can have sustainable performance that's continuing to progress up over time instead of ups and down dips that some of our students in our schools are experiencing over time.
So the next cluster of zones are the Dillard and South Plantation zones. The impacted schools in those zones, I'm going to start right in the middle with Broward Estates Elementary. Broward Estates Elementary has approximately 250 students. It's a capacity of a little over 500. So sitting below 50%. In addition, the facility definitely needs some work. So the consideration there is to close the school. The surrounding elementary schools would then absorb those students, that being Plantation, MLK, Thurgood Marshall, Sunland Park, Westwood Heights. At Broward Estates, we can look at repurposing that campus for an early learning center for our 0 to 4-year-olds. And therefore providing opportunities for those 0 to 4-year-olds to be best prepared when they do enter kindergarten and hopefully have them reading by the time they walk into first grade. So that is very important, especially in this zone around Broward Estates to help improve the students' educational opportunities. In doing so, Sunland Park Academy right now is a K to 3. Actually, a few years ago, the state required us to make an alteration to the school because of school grade. However, the school's rebounded very nicely, been performing very well, and so we're looking to return that back to a traditional elementary school, K to 5, with boundaries. So that's what we would do there at Sunland Park. For MLK Montessori Academy up on the top, we also, besides the boundary change, are looking at determining whether or not we also have to have a program change. The Montessori has been welcomed, but then there's been some challenges. And with that, because it is a Montessori for the whole school, not every family wants their child to participate in the Montessori. So we have to make determination whether this is the best fit at the school or not. So it is under consideration also. Dr. Hepburn.
Thank you. So this is one area where student populations are not increasing and more of declining enrollment. So we have to do implement some different strategies here. Also, Mrs. Strauss talked about closing of Broward Estates. It does provide an opportunity for us to work with some nonprofits to address our needs for our younger kids, a 0 to 4-year-old early learning center. One of the things that we have a goal to do is to make sure our kids are reading before they actually leave first grade. And the earlier that we can have them in our classrooms to make an impact instructionally, the better off they'll be along their whole entire journey through K through 12. And there's also some other opportunities on that property, working with nonprofits to create some things that are beneficial to the community, such as wellness centers and the like.
So the next set of zones are the Fardale and Stranahan zones. The impacted schools under consideration, I'm going to start to the middle bottom at Virginia Schumann Young. The consideration, Virginia Schumann Young is right now a full choice school. Therefore, parents have to apply to get into it. It is also a Montessori. The consideration is potentially taking the Montessori program and the full choice and shifting it over to Bennett Elementary. Bennett Elementary sits adjacent to Sunrise Middle School. Sunrise Middle School is our 6 through 8 Montessori over in this part of our district. And therefore, it would create a K-8 Montessori type campus between Bennett Elementary and Sunrise Middle. Virginia Schumann Young would then convert to a traditional bounded K-5 elementary school. There is a lot of students that live around Virginia Schumann Young that are not attending our school, they attend private school. So therefore, potentially we can bring those students back to their local neighborhood school. In addition to Virginia Schumann Young's boundary, we would have to make a slight adjustment to Harbordale Elementary's boundary. The next consideration is over towards the left, North Fork Elementary. North Fork Elementary has had some school grade concerns. They were an F school a year ago. They've improved. Also, the school sits right on Broward Boulevard, just east of I-95. And so the consideration there is to make it a full choice school. Therefore, once again, parents apply to bring their child there. And what can occur, a lot of parents that work downtown are looking for an option to bring their child, meaning driving into work, commuting into work, dropping their child off to an elementary school. When they get done with work, picking their child up, hopping back on 95 and heading home. So we feel that there's a good option there or consideration for North Fork Elementary to turn into a full choice school. To do so, we would have to adjust boundaries of Walker and Northside Elementary, as well as some of the other schools that we already saw on the Dillard zone. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so North Fork Elementary also provide an opportunity to implement some innovating programs, partnerships with entities such as the Museum of Discovery and Science, leveraging those type of innovating solutions. Also ensuring that since it will be full choice, ensuring that the students in those neighborhoods actually get priority choice to be able to take advantage of those new opportunities in those schools. Also with Walker Elementary and Northside Elementary, which would be impacted with some rezoning. Again, reviewing the programs that we're offering in those schools, especially, and in other schools, just to make sure we have the right instructional programs that our students can leverage to create sustainable performance, because those schools also suffer from what I call a yo-yo effect, with performance going up and down year after year.
So the last set of zones are the Deerfield, Beach, and Monarch zones. This is all the way up in the northeast portion of our district. Enrollment is not a concern up in the northeast portion. Actually, in the cities of Pompano and up in the north, there's actually some student growth that's occurring. However, on these 3 school properties, there are the potential for public-private partnerships, and I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Hepburn to speak about that.
Yes, as Mr. Strauss mentioned, this is actually a growing area in the county, where we have families constantly moving in this area. So there's not a issue with enrollment per se right now, but it does provide some opportunities for some public-private partnerships, such as with Deerfield Beach Elementary. There's a private company that's working with the district and the school to try and renovate a historic building that's on site. We don't have the means to actually do that, so working with a private company helps us out with those situations. And also with Quiet Waters and Tedder Elementary, there's a possible land use behind the building where private companies are taking a look to see what they can do as far as probably building workforce housing and some other opportunities with the land behind some of those schools.
So the last part of the superintendent's considerations are actually properties. So we have 2 properties that we have occupied. That's the school board headquarters, and we have also what's known as the TSSC Annex building, which house employees of ours. I gave an example earlier where we can take a school that has been under-enrolled and everything else, and if we close it, we can repurpose it for district admin space. Potentially, we could look at taking employees from one of these buildings, moving them out into a school, and therefore can sell the property of that building. Also, we have vacant property, as you see. We have a number of vacant properties, the acreage is up there, and that is all for consideration to sell, and I'm going to hand that off to Dr. Hepburn to speak a little further on that.
Yeah, so we know that land is a premium period in South Florida, and we have some opportunities here to leverage some sale or lease of land and get market value and put it out for bid as the board see fits in the future. And then we do have some district priorities that we have to address in the coming years, and also increasing our fund balance so we're more solvent and financially stable, because one or two emergencies throughout a year could really put us in a bad place when it comes to our finances. So we're going to ask the board to take the opportunity and see if we can leverage some of this land for sale or lease, so we can actually address some of our district priorities and increase our fund balance.
So once again, concludes the portion of the superintendent's consideration. This next portion of the presentation, I want to repeat, I'm going to repeat it 2 times. This is not the superintendent's consideration. Once again, these that I'm going to present to you are not the superintendent's considerations. But we wanted to provide our stakeholders with a perspective of, if we look at our entire school district and we have 200,000 students, do we have 200,000 seats to put them in? And so we want to look at how close can we get to having 100% seat utilization in our schools, and therefore, by doing so, how many schools do we not need to have anymore? So in doing so, we have this table, and it's broken down between elementary, middle, and high. In our elementary schools, we have roughly a little over 85,000 students. That's K through 5. Our typical elementary school houses about 814 students. Once again, there are some elementary schools that have 1,000 students, and there's some elementary schools that have 600 seat capacity. But our typical has a capacity of 814. When you divide those two numbers, you get 105. That, however, is currently we have 137 elementary schools, which means we could close 32 schools when you subtract those two numbers, 137 and 105, close 32 schools and have enough K through 5 seats for all our children. If you look at the middle school and the high school, the same thing applies. We would only need 29 middle schools. We have 37. That means 8 potentially could close. And at the high school, we would need 25, and we have 27 for a totality of 42 schools. So in the entire district, for us to have a 1 student to 1 seat ratio, we would be able to theoretically close 42 schools. Of course, it's never going to be perfect because, like I said, every school doesn't have the exact same seat capacity at the level, but relatively speaking, this is looking at it from that standpoint. However, in doing so, there is some impact with that. Like I mentioned, the first part is we'd be eliminating excess seat capacity. You've heard a lot of discussion around 50,000 seats or additional seats that are not being utilized. Well, doing it this route, the 50,000 seats would go away. We would have 200,000 students, 200,000 seats. So we would be right near as close to 100% as possible, 99.8, 99.9% seat utilization. Doing so does have some negative impacts, and those negative impacts are listed the next 3 or 4 items. First, potentially we would have to redraw all school boundaries and feeder patterns, because if we were looking at it from a holistic approach, there's schools that we would have to close, and then we would have to look at what feeder pattern goes up from this elementary to middle school to high school. Next, because we're close to 100% seat utilization, we wouldn't be able to have magnet programs because magnet programs are meant to attract students to under-enrolled schools. We wouldn't have any under-enrolled schools. Our schools would be at near capacity. The next also would be no school choice or reassignments. Right now, many families utilize reassignments. They might want to have their child attend a school close to their workplace. They might have their child attend a school that's close to the grandparents' house. They might be a teacher that works for us, and want to have their child go to the school within their innovation zone. So for a variety of reasons, they utilize reassignments. However, with no seats available, it's difficult to allow for reassignments and school choice. That will all lead up to potentially increasing our loss of student enrollment. Because what's going to occur is the family's going to say, I want my child to be reassigned to this school or wanting to go to a magnet program. It's not available. You know what? I'm going to go to this charter or private school instead. So those are some of the negative impacts that might occur. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so also, just to add to that, there are some benefits and there are definitely some downfalls. The benefit that Mr. Strauss talked about is that all of our schools would be at high capacity. And also, we would be able to regain tens of millions of dollars. But one of the biggest downfalls is that you do limit school choice. Our students would not be able to traverse across the district like they do to take advantage of choice programs that support their specific interests. So there's some decisions that have to be made that could be some downfalls for a lot of kids and some small windfalls for the district, in addition to what Mr. Strauss added.
And I just want to restate what I said twice earlier. That, right, what you just saw is not the superintendent's consideration. So I just want to review the timeline with everybody. So we began last Monday night, April 29th, and last week we did 3 town halls. This is the 3rd this week. We have 1 more tomorrow night at Deerfield Beach High School. So we'll do a total of 7 town halls. This leads up to next Tuesday, May 14th, there is a board workshop. That's at 5 p.m. at Plantation High School. Once again, 5 p.m. at Plantation High School. At that workshop, I just want to be very clear, the board cannot take any action. All they can do is hear the recommendations, keyword, recommendations. The considerations will turn into recommendations from the superintendent. The school board will hear the recommendations and give feedback, as well as the community will provide feedback to that as well. Once that feedback is given to the school board, the next date is June 18th. June 18th is an actual school board meeting. At the school board meeting, the school board can take action. They could vote up or vote down any action, any agenda item. And so at that June 18th meeting, the superintendent would provide his final recommendations. May 14th will be his recommendations. June 18th will be his final recommendations. And then the board will take action on that. Whatever is decided there, we would then go into a planning year. So the 24-25 school year, next school year, would be a planning transition year in order to prepare for the implementation, which would take place the following year, the 25-26 school year. So we just wanted to make sure that we were well aware that nothing is happening next year, regardless of whatever decision is made. It will not be implemented until the 25-26 school year. Dr. Hepburn.
Yes, so before we transition to the directions that Dr. Wanza is about to give to the public and also those who are watching live, as Ms. Fam mentioned earlier, we'll be collecting your feedback. And as I mentioned earlier too, feedback is a gift. Your feedback is very valuable throughout this process. It has helped us along the way. This is our 6th town hall. We have 1 more left. Along the way, we have been making some revisions and refinements to these considerations that we're going to turn into recommendations. So we're listening. We're reviewing the data. We're reviewing your comments. We're reviewing your emails. And we're making small shifts and revisions based on that feedback we've been collecting. So it's very important that you engage either through the survey that they're about to show you the QR code for, and also if you want to take the opportunity to step up to the mic, and also if you've already emailed us in the past or plan to email us in the future. So however you choose to engage, please engage. Feedback is important. Feedback is a gift, and it's definitely very valued for us as we consider to refine our considerations. Dr. Wanza.
Thank you, Thank you, Dr. Hepburn. So now is the time where we want to hear from you. If you could take out your phones, there is a QR code that you can access. We also have staff coming up the aisles if it's better for you to access the QR code. The code is going to take you to an online survey. The survey will ask you the questions that you see on the screen, and here's what I want to tell you when you get to the question that talks about, do you prefer the superintendent's consideration or total district realignment? It does not give you any other option but to select one of those two. And yes, you must select one to move on to the next question. And in the next question, if you want to expand upon why you prefer either one of those options or whether or not you would actually not prefer either option and you would like for the district to consider something completely different. So I do want to tell you that when you get to the question that asks you, do you prefer the superintendent's consideration or total district realignment, in this iteration of the survey, which we have used in all town halls, so it's not anything different from tonight, you do have to choose one of those two, but when you get to the next question, that is an open response, and then you can give us additional feedback. So we're gonna pause for about a minute to allow you to concentrate on that, and then I will guide us into the open feedback from the mics. So at this time, if you would like to provide comments at one of the mics, we ask that you do begin to start lining up here at the floor mics. As you can see, the timer is set for 2 minutes. Each speaker will have an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes. This is a time for us to hear from you. We will not engage in a back and forth of Q&A. We just want to hear your comments. You must use your time. You cannot defer it or donate it to someone else. So we will begin with you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I found this very interesting. It's my first time coming. I'm a little nervous, so forgive me if I get emotional. I want to thank Brenda Fam. She took my call about a year ago when I had a hard time with my son. I took him out of public school so that he could go to charter school because of what was going on with COVID. And I found out that after 2 years being in charter school, my son was still at a 3rd grade reading skill level. That was very upsetting to me. And when I asked about summer school or what resources we had, I was told that doesn't exist. Now, when I was a child, we had summer school, and I couldn't understand why we wouldn't have that now. So I took out money from his college fund at a tune of $10,969 to send him to Huntington so that he could learn how to read in grade level. And they did that. It took him all summer, and they brought him up 2 reading levels. Parents are going to wake up to the charter school myth, and they won't come back to public schools. I'm just concerned that your plans are going to permanently close schools and hurt kids coming back to the public school system. I am a product of Christian schools. My husband and I both went to Catholic school all our lives, and we really didn't drink the Kool-Aid, and we wanted our child to go to public school. So we chose to live in Davie, where the schools are very good. Sorry.
Thank you for your input, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you all for that lovely presentation. It's good to get like a little more insight. So kind of found this out because I actually live over by Oak Ridge Elementary, and I did grow up there, and then we moved back. We're renovating our childhood home. I did not go to school there. I went to private school. My daughter does not go to school there. She goes to Summit Cuesta. And I was just thinking, I've always thought that was so sad. It's right there. It's in such a safe neighborhood. It's a cute, great, safe neighborhood for kids. A lot of kids go there. And every time I looked it up, considering if she could go there, if I would go there, it was always the same story. I'm on the PTO board at Summit Cuesta. I'm super involved in the school. I'm very close with Judy Dempsey. We were talking today. She told me about, the work that she had done at Martin Luther King, how you guys were, mentioned that it was Montessori, but they're not still using those same practices. And that is a lot of why you'll get some of that feedback from parents, like they don't understand Montessori, or they don't know if they want their kids to go there, because it's a very specific thing. But when you look at the data, or you look at her school, and the kids are reading all by 3 or 4, there's a reason why, and it's very specific, and the help is out there, and they're offering it, and even I'm offering the help. If you wanted to make that school a Montessori school, I'm very involved in the school, and I think it is like a great opportunity to grow that neighborhood. There's so many kids in that neighborhood, so many kids. The neighborhood is changing, it's becoming younger, and none of them send their kids there. They drive here and there and everywhere to go to these private schools, these Montessori schools, and there's a reason why. And when I was talking to Judy, she's like, it just takes work, but it's also not rocket science to bring something like that in. It just takes work, it takes dedication, it takes being okay to see that change. And I just think Oak Ridge would be a great Montessori school, and I'd be willing to help, so that's it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Karina. I'll go quick because there's only 2 minutes. Great presentation, thank you for coming, but I feel like a lot of you fail to see that it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't improve the grades in the schools and education, the schools will continue to be under-enrolled. My kids actually started, I live in Plantation, Plantation Central Park Elementary, which was great. I took them out in 1st grade to go to a charter school because, I used to say over my dead body, my kid will go to Plantation Middle or South Plantation, which is what I'm zoned for. And they did amazing at their charter school. Thank God, it was a really good charter school. And one of my kids now goes to Western. If we didn't get the reassignment to Western, we would have gone to Franklin Academy, the high school, because I did not want them in South Plantation. It's also very weird that we're in the same zip code as Western, and we're under 10 minutes away, under 3 miles away from Western, and yet we're zoned for a school that is like 20 minutes away from my house. But the point is that you could put lipstick on a pig, it would still be a pig. Unless the grades of the school will change, you're not gonna get the parents to, even if it's more convenient, it's close to their work or whatever it is, you're not gonna get the parents to get their kids go to that school. I've been in Plantation for 16 years. I only know one person that sends their kid to the public school after the elementary. After the elementary level, everybody moves, and I was on that same boat. I was ready to move to Parkland or Weston. Everybody moves. They have had even second properties. They have bought second properties, and I know the school district knows about this because a lot of them got a call saying that they checked their homestead exemption and it's not, tied to, they're not living in the second property, so they were forced to take the kids out. But everybody does private, charter, or, move because nobody wants to send their kids to an underperformed school. Like education comes, first, and our kids shouldn't be guinea pigs. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the great presentation. I loved all the data, and I thought it was very articulately said. Thank you. I went to American Heritage Elementary, and then I went to Lauderdale Lakes Middle School, and then Boyd Anderson. And what drew me there were magnet programs, was the International Baccalaureate program, and going to those schools was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And when I look at this presentation, I recognize the kind of fiscal realities of today. I don't know if this, as one of the earlier speakers said, prepares us for the future or increases our competitive edge or advantage against these charter and public schools. When the stipend, if the stipend ends that a lot of folks get from DeSantis, people are going to start looking for these magnet programs again. And I just wonder if there's more of an opportunity here to outline a longer-term growth plan that involves rehabilitating or improving or increasing some of these exciting programs that draw people to these other schools. And I see that you're doing that in some areas, but I just wonder if in some of the closing schools you could do something similar, because there are a lot of students that are just, this was my wife and daughter. It's like, we would love to go there, but unfortunately the programs don't meet our bar. And then second, I would just, and maybe it's in a follow-up email, I would just love more detail on what you intend on doing with the closed schools. As a community member, I'd hate to see this wonderful property sold and turned into a giant apartment complex, or miss out on the opportunity to create something for the community or for children in some regards. So if there's any additional detail, I'd love that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everyone here. Dr. Hepburn, it's a pleasure. I had shaken hands with Dr. Licata and yourself and Zimmerman, another gentleman I cannot recall, but unfortunately what had happened is nothing transpired. The point is that economically, this is an economic decision. We're supposed to be an independent nation. What does that mean? I heard Dr. Hepburn made mention about sustainable. He kept on using that word sustainable, and that's very important, because if we're supposed to be an independent nation, it means that we are an independent people. Otherwise, independence is mere illusion. Example, the most important thing in our lives for our children is for them to be empowered, for them to be self-sustainable. And what are those elements that constitutes true self-sustainability in independence? 1, food. 2, water. 3, energy. 4, your resources, your natural resources. Recycling. Technology. These are the things, and housing. Food, clothing, shelter, and water. Recycling and all that, that is critical. If our children does not know how to grow a fruit and they're chasing paper, if our children don't know how to harness water in a flood, we have a water situation because we're not catching it. We're not utilizing our energy resources and all that. This kind of things need to be introduced in the school system. I had sent an email. I had gotten, Dr. Licata shook my hand. Oh, we'll go to lunch. This is an excellent idea. So you shook my hand. I went through and through trying to get to the superintendent to try to make something happen for our children, because we are in a situation right now, our water, our food, Our land and the resources, our housing, and all of that is being threatened. And if we don't make a radical change to make sure that our children know about growing, know about understanding ecology, understanding their energy, to be self-sustainable, we must be able to provide those things without having to depend on it from the government. Be able to assist the government, thereby being able to
Sir, I'm going to ask you to wrap
eliminate
it up.
our financial restraints and resources. I will send a letter to you, sir. I will have my secretary call you and try to see if we could make an appointment, sir, if we could make this better. Because if something is not done to address these elements of self-sustainability, my plan is a united and universal
Sir,
system.
I'm going to ask that you send the email that you said, and Dr. Hepburn will be happy to respond to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your input. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your service and your advocacy. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hi, Corey Pinero. So, Dr. Hepburn, you have a huge job. You know that this is a huge job, and we all know why and how we got here. We got here because money has just flown out of Broward County schools for so many years that $800 million is just poof. Who knows? Where is that? And so what Broward County Schools does is they change their superintendent. They get somebody fresh in here to do it. And I hope you can do it. I hope you can make this district better than what has been, but you have a huge, huge job to do this. On top of that, you guys need to look at what you are teaching our children. You are sexualizing our children. The sexual education that you guys approved in October of last year is absolutely horrendous. And then you have teachers that are activists that push sexual orientation, gender identity on our kids. This is not the job of the schools, and that is why a lot of people are leaving. That is why. I'm on the district book review committee. I'm the only parent on that district book review committee that argues that these sexually explicit and pornographic that would make me as a 45-year-old woman shy away from, that they still need to be in our schools. These are educators that are on this board that defend this pornographic material, and it's absolutely horrendous. We send our kids to school to learn wholesome education, not indoctrination on things that they should not be learning. It is our job as parents to teach our kids certain things, and you need to look at that, because that is why a lot of parents are taking their kids out, including me. I am trying to move my child to private school. So that's where you need to focus, and you need to be more transparent, because where is the money gone? Show us where the money is. Is it?
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we ask that if you hear comments that really resonate with you, that we use our visual applause so that we can hear the comments. We ask that you use your visual applause. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Peter Kirsten. Thank you for this opportunity to share, and I really appreciate the details you share. I think it's a pretty logical plan that you've laid out. I just wanted to emphasize my view and opinion that the plan that the superintendent presented, overall, I agree with. I think it's a sound plan as opposed to the total redistricting plan. I believe that plan would have a more negative impact overall on the community in terms of the total costs, whether it be financial or whether it be disruption to families around a large redistricting. And that was my point. I just wanted to thank you and wanted to emphasize that point. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jessica Alvarez. I am a mom of 5. 3 already graduated for high school, public schools, and I have a high school now and elementary kid. And before, like 4 years ago, I've never got a concern about the public schools. Just a little bit of the bullying stuff, but not like that many concerns. But lately, it is crazy, the amount of crazy things that you see at public schools, that you hear from public schools, and that you live in public schools. So the bullying, the sex harassments, the indoctrination, a lot of stuff, and that is something that is taking our parents to take our kids out from the public school or think about taking out or left. Some of them left. So I will appreciate and I thank that you are here tonight, that you are listening our voices, that we are parents. We are not activists. We have kids. We have our blood in those schools, and we appreciate the teachers. I am a teacher, and I know what it is, and I know that the kids don't obey adults now, and you have to be tougher on that. And I'm super concerned also with the matrix that we're having at schools. We can let them do bad things, another bad thing, and stay at schools. And why? And all the good kids that are trying to strive there, to study, to do their best, have to leave the school, and the bully stays there. That is getting out, the parents scaring to the public schools. So that's another thing. So please pay attention of the real voices of the parents, of the real mothers concerned about their kids and dads, and take care of our kids, because that, if you take care of our kids, we are going to gladly leave them at public schools.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good night. Welcome, Mr. Hepburn, and yes, you have a very big task at hand. Thank you, Ms. Fan and Mr. Fungenholy here tonight. For representing us. We're District 6, Weston, Cypress Bay, Falcon, and our area schools are excellent, as you said. But yes, the education has been lacking. The test scores are very low. The COVID, closures really impacted our kids, the reading levels, math levels. I do believe that we moved to this area because the school district is phenomenal. But if we see the lack of their skills being lowered in standards, definitely we're going to move them out. I believe in change and innovations, but I believe that we have to update the curriculums and offer extra stuff to our kids, especially in areas that need it. Like, let's say, the Montessori program that you were mentioning, also the baccalaureate, the Cambridge program. We do have that in our schools. There's also the WISE program, which is a very nice program offered by Harvard and implemented in BPK. Kids learn to read really fast. I did mention this in the previous meeting, and nobody called me about it. Also, teaching them about AI, about financial planning, and preparing a budget, and getting with all these big corporations that are local right now, like with the cruise companies that are around, getting them to be certified as consultants, just like the FBI has a cybersecurity certification for what's it called? Cybersecurity in Cyprus. Offer all this kind of extra programs that will motivate people to keep and bring their kids to those schools.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Vasquez. I am an education advocate. And I've been going to all these town hall meetings and offering a little bit of advice from my background. I have an extensive background in business. I have been part of drawdowns both in the military and in the private sector. And I can tell you some of the things that you said here have been said in other town halls. I know the panel up there has heard some of this, and I just want to elaborate it to provide a little bit more detail. It is true that should you do a drawdown, you're going to be given a little bit more information, framed out a little bit different, better courses of action, plus and minuses, and there will be a financial component to that. So you can make smart advisory decisions to the decision makers. But not only are we lacking that, you can hear it in the voice, is a little bit of lack of trust. We know it was mismanagement that got us this far. So how are we going to get out of this? So one of the things we've been talking about, We've been advising that we in the community should be part of the process, not through surveys and QR codes, but literally part of the process. We can stand up committees by which you can provide those feedback, talk about the root causes, talk about what we need to do, what we have to do to compete, because here in this district, we know what we need to do to get it right so we can beat those charter schools, so we can bring our students back, but they up there they only know so much. The way to the future is over on this side of the room. So we gotta come together, because at the end of this, we all wanna work together, and we all wanna be able to compete better. The best way to do that, come together. Give us a seat at the table. Stand up these committees, and we could all come together and fix our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to share your plan and for the opportunity to let me share. I am a mother of two. I have a middle schooler, I have a sixth grader, and I also have a third grader. My story is probably similar to parents that are here this evening, and I'm sure parents that are watching as well. I have a gifted student, and she started out at her home school, which is Sawgrass Elementary. My husband and I moved there. We purchased our house right around the corner for that reason, so that she would have a school that she would be able to excel in. She started there in kindergarten, and we left her there until she was in third grade. She was tested out gifted after first grade by the recommendation of her first grade teacher. Well, after third grade, we realized that she needed an immersive program. The only immersive gifted program in this district is at Parkway Middle School. That school is in Lauderhill, which is 20 to 25 minutes drive from our home here in Sunrise. And she has now been there for 3 years. This will complete 3 years. And to tell you that my husband and I are disappointed is beyond. Because we needed an immersive program for her. Not that she wasn't getting it at Sawgrass, but she needed something 100% during the school day. And the issue is I feel like we are being given lip service, just like this other mother said. You can put lipstick on a pig, but you cannot change what is given to our students on a daily basis. My daughter is bullied on a weekly basis. My daughter is taunted for her ethnicity. And as a parent of 2 mixed daughters, and somebody whose parents immigrated here to the United States, I am more than disappointed. Dr. Hepburn, I look forward to your recommendations, and I look forward to the growth of this district.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk. And my name is Chi Yao. And first of all, I want to express my appreciation for Ms. Fam. Ms. Fam's great work. She is being very involved in the community, in the school board, and we appreciate how she stands up for the families, for the parents, and for our children. All right. My concern is, first of all, I want to confirm, is it true that right now Broward County schools are hiring teachers at the bar of high school diploma? Is it true?
So typically, we do not respond to questions, but I will tell you, in order for a teacher to be hired, there are state requirements, and a state requirement is a minimum of a bachelor's degree to be a teacher.
Right.
Okay.
So I want to thank you so much for that information. So I want to make sure that, first of all, I agree with the standard. So for anybody to be hired as a school teacher, that person has to have at least a college degree in order to teach. All right, that's first thing. Second thing is that I agree with the previous. There was one gentleman mentioned about the school, what the school should be included in the curriculum, such as, besides the math, but besides the reading, science, how about some teach the students about the finance, about the law, so they can have the knowledge about, equip them with the knowledge to face the real world when they grow up. And the other thing is about is about the discipline, The disciplinary action in the school needs to be, the school has to tough up about their policy. The leniency does not cut, okay? Because in the school, that is the reason why there are so many bullying in the school. I have my friend's child in the bus, 5-year-old. When he got on the bus, he was bullied by students. He says that if you dare to tell your parents, I'm going to use a gun and shoot you. And that boy was not punished at all. He's still walking to school. So I just want to make sure that the school will have better disciplinary action so that they will have, the students who misbehave will face the consequence. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for holding these meetings. I appreciate it. My name is Dawn. I went to Thomas Jefferson Junior High in 1980. I hope that I'm not the only person here, it doesn't look like I am, but maybe, who's old enough to remember those bad old days. But I was in pre-algebra and algebra 1 class with 49 of my classmates. And so I'm wondering how classroom size is going to shake out when we're done like closing all these schools or redistricting or doing whatever it is we're going to do. Because that's a big concern to me. Because just like a nurse can't take care of, 20 patients the same way she can take care of 6, a teacher cannot take care of 50 students the same way they can take care of 20. I also wonder, what will the money come from if we do sell these school properties? And I'd like to see that laid out very specifically before anything happened with that if we are going to sell off school properties. I know we said yes to charter schools a while back and, funding them, everything. They participate in our school districts, and that's great. And they said that was good for competition, but I hope that we plan to compete. And I know that you've raised a lot of issues with the school's parents, and there are issues with discipline. I understand that. But I went to public school. I got a great education. I was an AP student. I felt like it prepared me for life. My children went to public school. They got a great education. My daughter graduated from the oldest school in Broward County. She's an AP student. She's doing great. So, we do have a lot going for us. Our schools are not trash. They are worth saving. And I'd like to see us not consolidating, not shutting down. I'd like to see us building up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm actually a junior. Thank you guys for being here. So mine is about the total district realignment. So I was understanding everything until you got to that part, and when you said that you couldn't be reassigned. So in Broward, as you guys know, there's a bunch of CTE programs, which are really one of a kind, and these allow students to have degrees when they graduate high school, which really helps students. I know my friends that aren't super financially stable. So without the reassignment, they can't get access to the degree that they want. So I just think that it's super it's really bad for the students that are trying to get a step ahead in their career if you can't be reassigned to go into a CTE program that you would choose in the county.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And we wish you all the best as you finish your junior year and head into your senior year. So it looks like we have concluded the input from our stakeholders this evening. With that, we are going to turn the podium over to our District 1 School Board member, Mr. Foganholy, to give us some closing remarks, and then I will come back and wish you all the best as you head to your next destination.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm so sorry. It's a tough crowd. Jeez. Sorry I'm late. I was running Brazilian time today. But yes, my name is Daniel Foganholy, Broward County School Board member and representative for District 1. And I appreciate everybody coming out here tonight, especially this district being one district that is not being affected as much as others. My district, for example, is one that has multiple schools that are shown closing. And Oak Ridge Elementary, Olson Middle School, those are my schools, and I do appreciate us coming as a community and at least having the conversation. It's a tough conversation to be had, but I do believe that this conversation is important for us to be having. Whether it be now, I believe that this conversation has been postponed for so many years. And we've been put in this place now that we're having to answer to something. And when we look at a number like 42 schools needing to be closed, it is a tough Band-Aid to need to rip off. So as a community, I'm just glad that we're starting to have this conversation. It is a tough conversation to be had. And I, for one board member, just want to see the process be done equitably, to be done right, to make sure that every single district, every single school is done fairly. If we're going to have this conversation, it needs to be done fairly. So, you know, it's important that Mr. Strauss and Dr. Hepburn made the statement that this is not the final product, right? Again, the conversation is being had. Board still has to sit down, and it's tough for us to sit down and we hear comments and we can't reply back because we want to. But we are going to have that conversation together as a board. You want to say something? Now you're shy. Okay. So, you know, for us to have that conversation and of course, give feedback. But we really do appreciate all of your feedback. Those surveys are important. All the comments are important. And even though you don't see board members here, for example, I've watched every single one of these meetings from home if I'm not able to make it. And it is extremely important to hear the feedback from the community. So we want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being here. And everybody watching at home. There was, I think, 300 people watching today, or 500 people at the time that I tuned in. So we really do appreciate our community being tuned in and being part of this conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
She has closing remarks too. So with that, we thank you for your time, we thank you for your input, and we wish you all the best and safe travels on your to your next destination. Thank you.